welcome and thanks for joining us today as we discuss how ACF and ANFP credentials are truly the recipe for success. I'm Jackie Pressinger, Director of Strategic Partnerships at the American Culinary Federation, and ACF has joined with the Association of Nutrition and Food Service Professionals to provide this webinar. We are very excited to team up together and share the benefits of being credentialed and certified by both ACF and ANFP. Combining the culinary skill set gained with any level of ACF certification with the management, nutrition, sanitation, and safety expertise of the Certified Dietary Manager, Certified Food Protection Professional credential will position any individual to be the perfect candidate to lead a team in whichever industry they choose to pursue. So I'm going to share my screen so we can get a little bit more about today's agenda and bring you through the presentation. All right. Well, we are very excited to be joined by some very special guests today. We have Chef Michael Roddey CEC CCA CDM CFPP, Master in Education, and Chef James Zeisler, Senior CEC CCA CDM CFPP, both of whom are credentialed or certified through each of our organizations and are going to share their stories about why they feel having ACF certifications along with ANFP credentials has been a benefit and advantage to them professionally. Before we speak with the chefs, let's take some time to learn a little bit more about both the ACF and ANFP credentials. The slides today will also be emailed to all of the registrants following the webinar for your resource. At the end of the webinar, there will be time for audience questions. So if you have a question throughout the presentation, please type it into the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Additionally, feel free to use the chat function to collaborate with other attendees. So let's get that conversation going in the chat. I see some of you have done it already, but please let us know where you're tuning in from today. All right, well, let's get into today's presentations. Catherine Church is the Executive Director of the Certifying Board for Dietary Managers, the credentialing agency for ANFP. Catherine's going to take a few minutes to share more about the CDM and CFPP credential. Thank you so much for joining us today, Catherine.
Thank you, Jackie, and welcome to everyone. I'm happy to be here, and we'll start with the next slide, please. So I'll tell you a little bit about ANFP. ANFP, the Association for Nutrition and Food Service Professionals, is formerly Dietary Managers Association. And this is the membership organization for food service professionals in the non-commercial food service industry. Our members work in many different segments of the industry, including long-term care, rehabilitation, assisted living, hospitals, correctional facilities, the military, and schools. The Certifying Board for Dietary Managers is the credentialing arm.
You can check in if you want, but he's not taking us till
of ANFP and offers the CDM CFPP credential. The CDM CFPP stands for Certified Dietary Manager, Certified Food Protection Professional. Individuals who hold the credential are nationally recognized experts at managing food service operations and are identified as qualified professionals. Many work in healthcare, long-term care facilities, rehab centers, senior living communities, and hospitals. Some work in correctional facilities, schools, and the military, and others work for corporations in business and industry. All are trained and qualified to ensure food safety, manage menus, food purchasing, and food preparation, and to apply nutrition principles, document nutrition information, manage work teams, and much more. They are leaders in the food service industry and in their own organizations. Next slide, please. This shows you a little bit about where CDM CFPPs work. Our data indicates that roughly 68% work in healthcare. About 11% work in other long-term care arenas, and 17% are employed in other areas like the military, correctional facilities, school food service, etc. The vast majority of CDM CFPPs are full-time exempt employees with benefits. Next slide, please. As you can see, the most popular titles for CDM CFPPs are at the manager and director level. Next slide, please. So why become certified? The number one reason that CDMs want the credential is for career advancement and professional opportunities. The CDM CFPP certification offers a career path for individuals who want to continue to learn and grow throughout their professional lives. CDM CFPP credential has a defined scope of practice. This means that these individuals have the training and experience to competently perform the responsibilities of a certified dietary manager, which are clearly defined. The credential is nationally recognized, and those who earn it are in demand by employers because of their ability to lead a department and deliver consistent results in food service operations. They have higher wages and increased opportunities for career advancement. The credential is included in CMS Regulations. What does that mean? Next slide, please. CDMs are recognized in legislation by 18 states to serve as the Director of Food and Nutrition Services. In 2016, CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, released their revised regulations, and the third and final phase of these revisions went into effect in 2019. These regulations list the CDM CFPP as the primary qualification for the Director of Food and Nutrition Services in the absence of a full-time dietitian in CMS-funded long-term care facilities. Also clarified in the regs is the requirement for a member of the Food and Nutrition Services Department participating on the interdisciplinary team, or IDT. Only a CDM or a registered dietitian are qualified to fill this role, as defined by scope of practice. Next slide, please. So qualifying to become a CDM CFPP. The only way to do that is to pass the CDM credentialing exam. The first step is to become, if you want to, there we go, thank you. The first step is to become eligible to sit for the CDM credentialing exam. And to do that, you have to qualify through one of 5 pathways of eligibility. Next, you need to pass the exam, and then you need to fulfill the requirements needed to maintain certified status. I'm going to highlight 2 pathways of eligibility that I think will apply to most of you participating today. However, information on all the pathways is available on our website. Now we'll go to the next slide. Pathway 2 is for graduates of a 2-year, 4-year, or greater college degree in a related field. A transcript from the school is required to show proof of graduation as well as course content, and a minimum of 1 course in nutrition and 2 in food service management are required in that course of study. Pathway 3A, next slide, please, is for graduates of a comprehensive minimum 90-hour food service program curriculum who also have 2 years of non-commercial food service management work experience. A transcript from the school is required to show proof of graduation as well as course content, and a minimum of 1 course in nutrition and 2 in food service management are required. An employer verification form has to be submitted with the application to confirm appropriate work experience. Next slide, please. Now we'll talk about the exam itself. The exam was originally offered in 1985 and was the core Certified Dietary Manager exam. And in 1996, the exam was upgraded to include the Certified Food Protection Professional designation, which emphasizes the significant level of sanitation and safety included in the credential. Our exam is administered by a professional testing agency and is part of a nationally recognized competency assurance program for dietary managers. We have third-party oversight through the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, or NCCA, an organization that accredits certification programs that meet rigorous standards for certification. The Certifying Board for Dietary Managers is the organization that oversees the CDM CFPP certification program and has been accredited by the NCCA since 1989. The exam is offered in a computer-based testing format. It consists of 160 questions, and you are allowed 3 hours to complete it. The exam covers 5 content areas, as you can see on the slide. As soon as you complete your exam and hit the submit button, you will see your results on the screen. You also get a printed copy of your results to take with you when you leave the test center. And next slide, please. If you visit our website or contact our professional services department, we have a great team that's available to answer any questions you may have. And I'll throw it back to you, Jackie.
All right, well, fabulous. Thank you so much, Catherine. We
Sure.
are excited to have you here, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions at the end of the webinar. Just as a reminder, if anyone does have any questions, please enter those into the chat box, and we'll get to those shortly. But now we're going to learn a little bit about ACF certification. Michelle Whitfield is Director of Culinary Programs at American Culinary Federation. And I'm going to pass the presentation over to you, Michelle. Thanks for joining us today.
All right, thanks, Jackie. It's my pleasure to be here to talk about ACF and ACF certifications. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see that ACF was founded in 1929 and is the largest professional chefs organization in North America with more than 12,000 members belonging to over 120 chapters across the US as well as internationally. We are a not-for-profit organization with the goal of enhancing the professional growth for all current and future chefs and pastry chefs. ACF offers top resources essential to continually grow as a culinarian, from thought-leading conferences to online learning and other continuing education opportunities. ACF is a source for culinary updates and information as published in our magazine, as well as on our blog, wearechefs.com. We also offer training and apprenticeship programs. We review and accredit culinary programs in secondary and post-secondary institutions and offer scholarships and grants to support the education and professional development. On the next slide, you'll see that ACF certification is the only culinary program with stackable credentials, with all levels being recognized by the Department of Labor. ACF certifications validate the knowledge, skills, and experience in industry-relevant competencies and are earned based on education, experience, and successful completion of both a written and a practical exam. I won't go into detail for each level, but as you see, we have a total of 15 certifications ranging from entry level with no work experience to master level for savory and pastry chefs, as well as culinary educators and culinary administrator. You do not have to climb the ladder for each certification, but you can test at the level that you qualify for. How do you know which level you qualify for? Well, if you go to the next slide, we look at your work experience and your education. So your work experience must be current within the last 10 years. And as mentioned before, it ranges from no experience for the Certified Fundamentals Cook to 5 years as a chef in charge of food production for the Certified Executive Chef. A candidate can take a variety of paths to meet the education requirement for each level, from earning your degree or completing an apprenticeship program to a combination of a high school diploma and documented approved continuing education hours. All levels require verification of 30 hours in nutrition, supervision, and food safety and sanitation. Here's the good news. If you have your CDM or CFPP, you meet those requirements and you do not need to provide any additional documentation. For the more advanced levels, such as the CEC, you need to show 30 hours in cost control management and beverage management. On the next slide, you'll see that once you have been identified and pre-approved for a certification level, the next step is to pass a written and a practical exam. The written exams are administered through our ACF Online Learning Center. All exams are 100 questions, but vary in allotted time and the minimum score to pass depending on the certification level. Detailed information is in each handbook, including the content outline and reference books. We also offer a practice exam. The practical exam is taken at an approved site with testing dates and locations available on our website. If there isn't one in your area, you can reach out to the national office and we will work with our approved site administrators to get a testing scheduled for you. During the practical, your skills will be evaluated by 3 approved chefs looking at 4 domains: safety and sanitation, organization, craftsmanship, and finished product skills. A total average score of 75% or better is considered passing. Again, the requirements for each level are different with details in the handbook. So what's next? Next slide. Please reach out to us to see which level you might qualify for. We also offer a concierge program. So if you have a group interested in becoming certified, this program provides you with a dedicated account representative, as well as pricing discounts, not only on certification, but other ACF offerings as well. When you're ready to start the journey, give us a call or send us an email. I'm excited to start seeing more dual credentialed chefs out there. If you have any questions, please ask them using the Q&A function, and we'll get to them at the end. Jackie, back to you.
Well, fabulous. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, Catherine. Great information. I think we all have a little bit of a better understanding of the ACF and ANFP credentials. So now let's hear from some chefs who are dual credentialed by both organizations. Chef James Zeisler, CEC CCA CDM CFPP, will be joining us first. He is the program head of culinary arts at Virginia Western Community College. A fabulous program if you're ever out in the Roanoke area. Chef, would you please let us know a little bit more about yourself and how your food service career has taken shape and how it's been impacted by having both of these credentials? We're so glad you're here.
Sure, thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. So I've been a CDM, CFPP, CEC since about 2000, 2001, so quite a while. And I actually got both certifications right around the same time. I started my career as a teenager in hotels and restaurants and food service, and then kind of worked my way up. And then I went to culinary school later. I was in my late 20s when I finally went to Johnson & Wales at the Norfolk campus in Virginia. And it was while I was in culinary, actually it was right before I went to culinary school, I landed a job in a retirement facility that literally fell out of the air. It was like I was working a job and everything was fine. And I was a single parent at the time taking my son to daycare. And one of the volunteers, I'd always come in my chef jacket. And so she put 2 and 2 together and she's like, "You're looking for a job?" And I told her I wasn't, but as a culinarian, it never hurts to go on an interview, regardless of how happy you are with your job. And lo and behold, I went on this interview and it was a gravy job in a retirement facility. I worked 11 to 7, 5 days a week. I made dinner for 100 residents. And that was the entire, I got full benefits. I was home at night. It was unbelievable. It was a whole culture shock to me. And that was my first experience into healthcare. And then I went to culinary school and got my degree. And when I came out of culinary school, I went back in the restaurant sector for about a year. And then I moved back into healthcare because I found healthcare to be much more conducive for a family sort of life. Having nights, having weekends with your family instead of having to work, working late nights, all of that sort of thing. And it was while I was in healthcare that the whole CDM thing came about. I had known about ACF and all their certifications for years because it was my main basically my main profession. But once I got into healthcare, I was kind of a little slow to learn about the professional organizations and certifications and things like that. And it wasn't until around 2000, I was working for a contract company that transferred me to Blacksburg, Virginia, to a large retirement facility. And I was the executive chef and director of their food service in their independent living and their assisted living. They had not yet built a nursing home. So in 1999, they were building the nursing home. And for me to be the director of their food service, I had to get my CDM. So lucky for me, I'd already been working on my CDM. And back then, when you did your CDM, they didn't call it online. They called it a correspondence course. So literally, I would do the work on a computer, but I would have to mail it into my proctor, who would then grade it and then mail it back. And so we did this for about a year until I got through the program and was able to sit for the exam. I was very nervous for both exams, actually, which is pretty normal. And as far as studying, you know, they give you material to study. I went through all of it. I brushed up heavily on my sanitation. And I found when I took the CDM exam, I found a lot of the stuff was stuff I already knew that I was doing every day at work. So that kind of made it a lot nicer. And then, and at that time also, I had to drive from Blacksburg up to Richmond to take the exam because it was the closest place that gave the exam. Today, we have a higher education center across from my school, and they can actually administer the exam. So we're really excited about that. We've just started the certificate program in my school to sit for the CDM exam. So we're very excited that we can get students through the certificate and then they can go right across the street to take the exam. But I found, for me personally, it opened up a lot of doors. When I got into healthcare, many chefs, especially certified chefs, were not. They were staying away from healthcare because they felt you'd lose your creativity. You can't use fat, you can't use sodium. But there's been such a paradigm shift in healthcare now that, you know, liberalized diets and working with more fat and being able to accommodate special diets, yet still make the food delicious and making the customers want to come back and have more, or invite guests or invite families for that as well. But it really opened doors for me as far as opportunity when I would apply for a job at a retirement facility, you know, and once they knew I was a CDM and a CEC, that made a whole big difference. So in the past, when a lot of chefs didn't want to get into this industry, I happened to get into it and I enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed the nutritional aspect of food. Even though I was trained as a chef, I've always felt that chefs don't get enough nutritional training in their education. And I feel that a lot of dietitians don't get enough kitchen training in their education. And it would be really nice to see a little more on each side so they can mesh a lot better together. I personally always got along great with my dietitians because I understood the diets I was working with and how to, you know, work with those, where a lot of people will fight with the dietitian because as chefs, we want flavor, you know, we want to put more fat in that food, and the dietitian's telling you, no, 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 you know, and it creates a lot of conflict. But once as a chef, you understand the nutrition behind it and why Mrs. Jones cannot have that big fat piece of chocolate cake, then it makes a lot more sense. And then you're going to be more willing to work in that sort of atmosphere. But today, as I said, you've got liberalized diets. A lot of times studies have been shown that people over 85 years old at that point almost doesn't matter what they eat within reason. So a lot more chefs now are getting into the healthcare realm. Number one, because of conducive family life, not working, you know, 80 hours a week, and you're getting benefits, you're getting insurance, you're getting holidays, you're getting vacation, you're getting sick. And as I attend ACF conferences all the time, I'm more and more seeing people with their CEC, CDM, CFPP. And it really warms my heart because when I first started going to ACF conferences, I might see one CDM and we'd be like, ooh, a CDM. But now you see lots and lots of them. And even here with our students, many of our students want to go on that chef route. They do their internship in healthcare and decide that's for them and they want to stay in it. So I'm excited to start to see this partnership between ACF and the ANFP, and hopefully start seeing, you know, us work together with the nutritional aspect, because that's what the public is screaming for right now, as well as the culinary aspect and being able to take that food, make it nutritious, but still make it delicious. Because the fallacy is, you know, no salt, no fat, no flavor. That's not necessarily true.
Well, fabulous. Thank you so much. I could see so many of the attendees, you know, cheering you on as you were speaking just a few minutes ago. Well, we appreciate it. And Chef will be here for the Q&A in just a moment. So please do have questions ready for Chef. And at this time, then, we are going to introduce you all to Chef Michael Roddey. And he is a CEC CCE CCA CDM CFPP Senior Director of Product Development at Revolution Foods. Chef, we're so pleased to have you here. I'm wondering if you might be able to share more about your food service journey and how it's led you to where you are today and about certification. So thanks for being here, Chef.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you, Chef, for your feedback or your information and education for those on the call. Catherine, I also want to apologize to you for jumping into your call knowing that I was not on mute. My apologies for that earlier in the call, and to all the participants as well. Yeah, so as Jackie said, I am now the Senior Director of Product Development for a K-12, so school nutrition-based company. I saw a bunch of the folks tuning in and mentioning where they're at. I'm actually in Sacramento. I saw that come in. Company's based in Oakland. I live further into the East Bay. I'll be in LA tomorrow. So we're in a very busy time with bid season and so forth for schools, which makes it interesting. My dual certification pursuit happened in early 2000s when I found ACF as a vehicle to help develop my resume, as I wanted to become a culinary arts educator at the time, and didn't realize why I wasn't getting any action with my applications, and realized that I needed some credentials. So that's really what started me down the path of certification, realizing that it would help me to achieve higher and more lofty goals within my career path that I've already dedicated, my life to, essentially starting in my pre-teens. So at that same time, I was also introduced to at the time, DMA, Dietary Managers Association, and followed, I think it was path 2 or 3 that you showed us, Catherine. So I used my culinary arts degree to open the door for me to be able to sit for the CDM CFPP Credentialing Exam. And there were, to me, it was just a good fit. The information, the knowledge base was there just from the lifetime in the food industry and engaging in all the different aspects of the industry that I had to that point. So I definitely urge both our CDMs and our chefs out there to consider, you're obviously here for a reason. Look at this as a viable opportunity for you to develop your alphabet soup, as we call it, to develop your credentials more and show a little bit more cross-organization application, as well as better expansion of your knowledge base and just bringing more to the table. So as we look back at my presentation, I put that up here really for you all to see, and I really say, like, what people a lot of times will say, what do I get out of it? And can we, yeah, thank you. What do I get out of it? I always say you get out of an organization what you put into it. So the more you put into it, the bigger the value of your membership is going to be. And as we show my credentials here through both ACF, ANFP, I also put up NRA, because a lot of us, or the majority of us, are ServSafe certified. There's more credentials that you can gain through the NRA. So looking at our next slide, that's going to allow us to see some other affiliations and the volunteer service. So again, you get out of it what you put into it. And I've cycled a lot between ACF and ANFP just due to locale or where I was at, or the vitality of a chapter or the lack thereof. That's how I've sort of migrated through my time over the last 10 years or so in where I'm focusing my efforts. And as we look at these, it's really about being involved. And what is the value? I guess obviously the theme here is, what is the value of dual certification? To an extent, we all make our own value out of it. You can go claim some credentials, and if you don't do much with it, if you don't promote it, if you don't engage in the opportunities that are presented to you through the organization, the governing body, then you don't get as much out of it. I always told students the same thing, that you get, the more you're involved in extracurricular activities at college and in the pursuit of your culinary arts education, the value of that education grows exponentially because you're involved and you're doing more. So that's where I have really, sunk my teeth into applying myself into the professional organizations and being involved, whether it be at a chapter level or at a national level through both ACF and ANFP. And a lot of you also know that, if you're a member of ACF, you're a member of WACS, and then if you're a member of the ANFP, you become an AHF member as well. So those are just some good things that you can do to be involved, support your local chapter, support your state chapter, support your national chapter, and then you're going to end up getting more out of your credentials and thus your membership. And then looking at the next slide, as it's focused on the affiliations and my involvements with ANFP, it's really the same thing. You know, involvement from the local and state level all the way up to the national level, and you know, bringing your experience as a chef, as a CDM, to your organizations to help the organization be better, to keep it real, to keep everything, you know, close to the forefront and tangible, so that it's relevant, so that the way that we as members help to steer the organization can help make it more rich for others that are involved. And then benefits, as I mentioned, the theme of this really is about the benefits of being involved. My next slide goes through some basic benefits that I wanted to share. As I've said, professional development is huge, whether it be attending a state conference or a national convention, getting involved in competition, and then just progressing up through the ranks. You know, just the act of going to sit for these exams, especially as the ACF is set up and there's progressional ranks that one can go through. You know, starting at a lower level helps to set you up for success as you progress up through the ranks, because the learning's taken from one credential, build on top to help develop that next credential. And then obviously the networking that you get from being involved with both organizations, you know, is just great, because you have various conferences, various connections that I've created that are countrywide. Honestly, you can go wherever and you can find an ACF certified chef or a certified dietary manager to engage with, to visit a facility, to learn more about their location. And I think as I've done this anyway, countrywide, we sometimes think we're unique and standing in a silo. As we expand our networking reach, I think we'll see that we all have common problems. You know, the staffing problems that we have on the West Coast are contained on the West Coast, and vice versa. So it's nice to know that we are not farmers out standing in a field all by ourselves, that we're really all, you know, is sharing in the same trials and tribulations as we move forward in our career and help to move our organizations to higher levels. And then after networking, I have mentorship. There's various activities that happen within both organizations. Some may not be active right now, but there's different levels of mentoring to help folks prepare for their practical exams, their written exams, to mentor the up and coming culinarians that might not be in pursuit of their credentials at this time, but they're just looking to be better and be more in tune with what the career path in the organization has to offer them at the point where they're at in their careers. So next slide shows really the same thing, but I like to show that, you know, again, we're here talking about the benefits of dual certification. If you are a member of both organizations, and if you are playing in both sandboxes and have credentials from both sides, you now double the professional development opportunities that you have, as it pertains to your location or on a national level. Double the networking opportunities, because the ranks are large and vast within both organizations, and just the opportunities double, whether it be getting involved in your professional organization, getting involved in subsets of the larger organization, or what have you. It just becomes a whole lot more tangible and relevant. And, you know, the big thing that I like to say is that, you know, to all chefs as well as student culinarians, is that, you know, not everybody wants to be in the grind of restaurants. And, you know, the home of most CDMs tend to create a little bit better quality of life, a little bit more reasonable schedules that students may find early, or chefs may find later in their careers, because everyone's looking for some quality of life, and realizing that you're doing 60 hours a week sometimes doesn't sit well with us. So realizing that there's another career path that allows chefs to exercise their expertise and apply their experience, knowledge, and education into something else that is helping folks typically lead out their later years of life at a higher level of satisfaction. There's something that's very rewarding and touching in that. So anytime that we are able to, like I said, helping to make an organization better or helping to make a dining environment better for those folks that you're catering to on a daily basis, you know, I suspect that everyone on this call really would find a common theme in that. And how can we make it better? We all want our loved ones to be well taken care of, as well as our children. You know, I'm here to feed kids right now, but we also feed seniors. So I'm really playing on both ends of the spectrum and being able to tap into my credentials through the ACF, as well as my credentials through the ANFP, and, you know, bring those to the table and, you know, have something that people from various walks of life can connect to or relate to as they might understand different levels of credentialing through different organizations. I've just always found that to be very rich. That's why I called out the NRA in one of my opening slides, not to propose it as a competing organization, but just to let everybody know that there's ways to accumulate your credentials and show the diversity and willingness to engage various organizations. And the other thing that I've found from operating at a higher level within the organizations is that both organizations have their strengths. Both organizations have their shortcomings, right? Nothing's going to be perfect. But how can we learn from the best practices, from the things that help to set us apart in a good way, and help to bring them into both organizations and really help to make both organizations better? In my mind, my eyes, whenever I was on the board, you know, bringing ACF and ANFP together, to me, is just a perfect synergy that allows a larger voice. It allows a larger number within the voice. And I think if we can find our common ground, which I believe there's a lot with both ACF and ANFP, that we can be stronger as we're grouped, as opposed to everybody running down their own street and playing in their own sandbox. So the more chefs that we can have that obtain these dual certifications, the more we can help to bring the large numbers and the power of both organizations together for achieving a common goal that's going to benefit us all. So to that, my final one as presented here, I think that was my nudge to get moving. Similarities within the organization, all food-centered organization. We are a food-centered organization on both sides. Health and safety are at the forefront of everything that we do, whether you're a certified chef or a certified dietary manager. People and member-centered organizations, the organization can only do what it does with the members' support and with the members' vote as well. So don't forget to vote in your said and respective professional organizations. Your vote counts, your vote matters. I say that as one who's run for office on both sides. Sometimes it comes down to slim numbers. So please support the leaders that you would like to see at the helm and helping to create the path and structure for your organization. Similarities, like I said, both have a chapter structure at a state or a local level that rolls up to a national level, and then everyone is electing the elected board by the membership, whether it be at a state or national level. So your voice counts, your certification matters to the organizations, and I urge you to reach out and to take on the pursuit of adding some more what I call alphabet soup to after your name. It definitely makes you more marketable and allows you to play within the arena of our food service career path, allows you to play within that and opens up some more doors for you. So thank you all very much. Thank you for allowing me to share my experiences with you.
Well, absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. And no, it was not a hint. I just advanced the slide by accident. So my apologies, Chef.
No problem.
Thank you for sharing all of that great information and inspiration with us. So now let's transition into Q&A. Again, if you have any specific questions about your personal certification journey, I would advise that you reach out to ANFP or ACF directly. But if you do have some general questions about the certifications or questions to the chefs today, now would be the time to make sure you ask those in the Q&A box. All right, so let's start off with one question. We'll kick this one to both chefs. But chefs, what was your biggest key learning in preparing for the ACF or ANFP exams? And do you have any tips for those who may not be dual credentialed yet? So let's start off then with Chef Z.
Okay. As I had said earlier, I did a lot of studying with the materials that was recommended by each organization. Definitely brushed up a lot on my sanitation, especially with the CDM, because I knew that half of that dealt specifically with sanitation, and I wanted to be sure I was on top of that. For my CEC, I actually took my CEC before the practical was required. So mine was just the written, but it was still quite an exam. And I know that it's changed since then, but it was just a lot of information, and it was really difficult to say to study one certain thing. It was very all-encompassing. And honestly, I think the main thing that got me through it was my actual experience that I already had when I went to take that exam. There's absolutely no way I feel like I could have passed the CEC written exam just from studying books. But because I've worked in kitchens for so long when I finally took it, that a lot of it really was stuff I had already been doing. And so that was very, very helpful. But getting, as far as the practical though, for the CEC, which is now required, I've administered many of those exams, and I've overseen many of them. We host 2 of them a year at my school. And people will tell you all the time, you must practice, practice, practice before you get in the kitchen. And a lot of experienced culinarians kind of take that with a grain of salt and, oh, no, I'll be fine. And I have seen the best of chefs take the certifying practical exam and almost fail because they didn't put that time in to really practice it. They felt so confident that I can just walk in the kitchen and do it. But you really have to practice it because you need timing. You've got to know the timing for every component that you're preparing, because you want to make sure you're hitting that window and you're not going over. And even with the, I talked about sanitation with CDM, but with this ACF as well, sanitation is paramount, especially in the practicals. If you bring your supplies in and you don't store them properly in the refrigerator per proper sanitation, you can be disqualified right then and there. So that shows you how important sanitation truly is. So no components of the exam should be taken lightly, but I do believe sanitation really is in the forefront, as well as studying the materials that are recommended by each organization.
Wonderful, wonderful, absolutely. Anything that you'd like to add to that, Chef Roddey? Oh, did we lose him? We might not have him available right here. Okay, so we will move on to the next question. And the next question would be about maintaining credentials. So Catherine and Michelle, I'm not sure if you'd like to take on renewal process and what that might look like, or how long the credentials are valid before you need to move on. Catherine, did you want to take that one first?
Sure. We have a 3-year renewal cycle. So once you pass the exam and activate your certification, you have a 3-year period in which you are required to pay an annual certification fee and then earn 45 hours of continuing education in that 3-year recertification cycle. And of those 45 hours, 1 needs to pertain to professional ethics, and 9 need to pertain to sanitation and safety. And we have a portal in which you submit your own documentation of your continuing education. You have a record that you submit everything. And then we have an audit process. So people are randomly selected for audit. And that's how we monitor that, but 45 hours are required every 3 years.
Great, thank you. And Michelle?
Yep, and on the ACF side, it's every 5 years. and you need to maintain 80 continuing education hours. And included within those 80 hours would be 8 hours refresher in nutrition, safety, sanitation, and supervision.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Okay, one of the other questions, and you know what, I'll pose this one to Chef Z, and we'll see if Chef Roddey is still with us as well. When you're hiring candidates, are you looking at credentials, or how important is that in the hiring process?
Well, for me, when currently I teach. So of course we're ACF accredited, our culinary program is. So our instructors have to be a minimum certified as certified sous chef or greater in order to be able to teach. And if they come on board, let's say they come on board as an adjunct or part-time instructor, and they don't have the certification, we give them a year and work with them and help them do practice. We provide the kitchen and materials to practice so that within a year, they must get that certification in order to continue teaching with us. Prior to teaching, when I was what I call in the general sector or whatever, when I was in healthcare, because I was working in a very, very small town for the last 10 years, getting certified professionals was very, very difficult. If I got a certified professional, whether it was CDM or any ACF certification, I would jump for joy, and that application would generally go to the top of the pile. But it was just so few and far between. However, especially since COVID, I know a lot of chefs with businesses around here who are really, really putting emphasis more on certifications, because what's happening is because of COVID and then all the shortage, now we have students graduating from our 2-year culinary program with no experience getting $50,000 a year jobs in food service, because food service is desperate and they're paying that. But unfortunately, it's that old, I just need a warm body theory. And so they're hiring these people with this crazy salaries who really are not probably at the caliber of what they want. So more locally, I know more chefs are looking for certified people just to bring on board. And it doesn't even matter if it's a low certification or, one that's higher up the ladder. The mere fact that you're certified, you've proven your skill set to that level, instead of, it's all on paper, 20 years experience. That might be great. I bring you in the kitchen and you're not very good. But by being certified, I know you have proven that skill set. So at least I have a benchmark. So for me, if I was to go back into, working in healthcare or hotels or restaurants or whatever, I would be very much more interested in certified employees or bringing them on board and then working to get them certified. Maybe like we do here, like within a year. But for me, as a manager, that would be pretty much, that would be my direct, is if I'm gonna hire you, then within a year, you must achieve a certain level of certifications.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that reply. There's a couple of questions that have come in that might have some confusion. You do not need to have either ACF or ANFP credentials in order to get the other one. We're just trying to let you know all of the great opportunities should you wish to pursue both. So you don't have to do one or the other first necessarily, and you don't have to have one in order to do the other. But we're just highlighting all the great things you can do if it's your goal to have both of these as well. One of the other questions that came in too is about the CEC. It is not just an online test. There is that practical exam. So there is that in-person piece too. Okay, so one of the other questions that came in is about experience, and without getting into any personal information, I'm gonna kick this to Michelle, if that's okay. This is someone who is asking if there is any experience required when it comes to receiving any of the ACF certifications. So is it possible to receive a certification without having any kitchen line experience?
Yes, we do. So our entry level certification, the Certified Fundamentals Cook, does not require any industry work experience. There is still a a written and a practical exam that they must complete. But at that level, there's no experience required. The additional levels then have a few years experience that are required.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Here's an interesting question too. So I'll pose this one to Catherine then. If someone has submitted their continuing education hours to ANFP, are they able to use those same educational opportunities then when it comes to credentials, or either or, back and forth?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think they're asking if they had received CEHs and they qualify to use yours, gosh, I'm trying to interpret for them as well. So I think they have achieved a certain amount of CEHs, and they're wondering if they can submit those same documents to ACF and to you.
For continuing education?
Yes, correct.
Certainly, there's no, our requirements for continuing education hours are what they are, and the criteria for them are established. And you can certainly submit them. Just because you got credit through ACH doesn't mean they wouldn't be eligible for credit also from the certifying board. So that's no problem at all if they meet our criteria. There's no reason you couldn't get credit through both organizations, if that's what the question is.
I believe so. I think
Okay.
So yes.
Great.
So
Good.
they don't.
Can I say something to that?
Yes,
Sure.
Chef, please.
Having been a member of both organizations for about 20 plus years, I always use, like when I go in an ACF conference and get those CEHs, I submit those to ANFP and I get the credit for them. So you can, if I'm understanding the question, you can, like, for example, go to an ACF conference and get those CEUs and also use those with the ANFP. Or if you go to an ANFP conference and get CEUs, you can then use those for ACF CEUs as well. I've been doing that for years and I've never had any issue with that whatsoever.
And I can, to piggyback on that, Chef Z, I can say that between our two organizations for our conferences, we do work together to obtain prior approval for our meetings, so that we know that the programs are approved, and it makes it a little easier for attendees to get that credit easily. So yes, we do for our own organization's meetings. It's always been approved.
Wonderful. Well, what a perfect time then for people who are tuning in who may not be familiar with your upcoming conference. We know ACF will be there just as you attend our conference as well. Would you like to let everyone know when your conference is? And I know it's an exciting destination this year as well.
Yes, we are in Scottsdale. I think the meeting starts on June 27th and goes through the 30th of June in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Wonderful. Well, I know that's going to be a great conference. I was able to attend last year and had an amazing time. ACF National Conference this year will be in Las Vegas, July 25th to the 28th. So if your schedule allows, please attend both. And as Chef Roddey said, more networking and more ways to get involved. Okay, so I'm just going to say, I guess right now with some final thoughts. Of course, if you do have any other questions, please feel free. We've put the contact information on the screen here, and we'll send you an email as well. So Chef Roddey, I'm not sure if you're still with us. If you are, feel free to chime in. But Chef Z, oh, you are, great. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, I got cut off. I was able to jump back in. Go ahead.
Well, wonderful. Well, we're just going to kind of start to close out the webinar, but I'm wondering if you'd like to leave the viewers and those who are considering dual credentials any final thoughts or words of wisdom or inspiration today.
I think as far as inspiration, don't be scared to step out of your comfort zone. Just because you might not have that medical background or that clinician type of experience, pick up an ANFP book, buy one of the books or two of the textbooks and get in there and start learning about what is contained in the test. Yeah, I don't want to dumb it down for anybody, because definitely it takes some work, just as it does for ACF certification. You know, the amount of practices that one needs, that should be doing if you're going to take a practical exam, you know, is not just trying a couple of dishes on their own and then going and taking your exam. So really make sure you go through the rigor and the work that's required to be successful. Because what we don't like to see are people putting themselves out there and fail and decide not to do it. So if I believe that if everybody gets some mentorship, puts in the proper work with the proper guidance, that all of us can be successful. So just make sure you're shooting at the right goals. That's what I have. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Thank you so much. And finally, Chef Z, any final words for those tuning in today?
I agree totally with Chef Roddey as far as, you know, practicing and studying and whatnot. But once you get involved with your organization, do just that. Be involved, get involved, run for office, run for chairs. You know, a lot of times people, they get their certification, they pay their dues, and now they're a member, and then you never see them or hear from them. They come to the monthly meetings to attend, but nobody gets involved. And sometimes in some chapters in both organizations, it's difficult to get officers, to get people to run on committees. Nobody, it's like, wants to get involved. So any chapter is going to be as strong as its weakest member. So I think it's very important that if you're going to commit to being certified and joining these organizations, be involved, get involved, whether it's on your level, a state level, or even a national level. And I think in that way, you're only going to enhance and strengthen the organizations as well as our overall profession.
Amazing way to close out today. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That's all the time we have. So just as a quick recap, if you're looking to take the next step in your career by adding ACF certification or the CDM or CFPP credential to your resume, it's a great way to strengthen your skill set and position you for success in the food service industry. Thank you again to Chef Zeisler, to Chef Roddey for sharing their stories and their expertise. Very inspiring. Of course, thank you to the ANFP team as well, and to Catherine, and also to ACF team member Michelle as well. Again, please go to info@cbdmonline.org or cbdmonline. Oh, sorry, reading that one again. Or email info@cbdmonline.org for more information, or contact ACF at certify@acfchefs.net, or visit our website acfchefs.org/certify. Well, we again appreciate you being here with us today. Please be on the lookout. We will send a survey along with the recording, and we'll also send more information and the link to this PowerPoint as well. So keep an eye out for that. If you're able to or would like to, you can also join us on June 14th. That's our next ChefsForum webinar, where we'll concentrate on techniques for small plates and tapas with ACF Certified Master Chef Tom Griffiths. So again, thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to our amazing partners at the Association of Nutrition and Food Service Professionals. And we'll look forward to hearing from you real soon. Have a great day, everyone.